Okay guys, in this video I'm just want to go through the difference between what a building element is and what a conceptual mass is. And the reason for that is when you start to look at your like an energy analysis, you can see here analysis mode, you have conceptual mass or building elements. And what the difference between the two is, obviously a building element is a wall or door or window or furniture or anything like that you put into your project, and you build with. A conceptual mass, if I click to the Mass and Insight tab, is done through the in-place mass, and this is something that you would, I know some of you actually did this at the start of the project. You can start to put in, so I just clicked on mass, drew a shape, and then I highlight it. I can create its form. And then you can see here there's a whole bunch of different things that you can do, or you can just click a point and start dragging to create unique shapes to kind of test how it's going to look. And this and like I said, just mentioned some of you did this at the beginning, where you use this to help you kind of come up with kind of like conceptual massing to see what it would look like, and at that point you can run a quick analysis to kind of get a hint of how your building will perform with conceptual massing. Other reason I'm showing you this is Revit can get finicky with building elements when you're trying to run energy analysis, because there might be certain little things that are off that it's not letting you work with, and so if you need to quickly get an analysis in, like for Monday, since you guys have to have some stuff to show the professors for Monday, you could use this to kind of just mash your building again quickly, run an analysis, and just to have something, and then we can look at your buildings individually to see why it's not actually working for the energy analysis with building elements. And again, I am creating videos for both the conceptual mass and how to run energy analysis with them, and obviously for building elements. So I would urge you, follow the video for the building element, and if it doesn't work, we can look at it to see what's off and why it's not actually working. If after the tutorial, you follow the tutorial, it's not helping. For the building elements themselves, and I wanted to show you this, why Revit, this is what makes Revit nice. So first, actually, I don't want to do a storefront first. And this is more for, so like I'm going to put in a wall that actually has properties to it. So I'm going to do like a brick CMU metal stud wall. And I mean, by properties, I mean that the wall is actually built out with different layers. So when I go to edit its type, and then edit its structure, you can see this wall has a whole bunch of different layers to it that kind of make the wall. And so I know some of you kind of start to pick different wall types from here. I know most of you probably use the generic with walls, and by the end of the semester, this is what we're going to do to your wall, where you're actually going to layer your walls in in Revit by how how you're actually going to have your wall be built and the different layers to it. So the good thing is here with Revit is you can look at a wall that they already have defined and see how they start to layer stuff, so you can kind of mimic this when you're creating your walls. And the reason for this is if I click on, so you can see here their exterior finished material is brick. So I'm going to click on brick, and obviously these tabs you can put in, so this is the brick material. These tabs you can put in some quick information about it if you want to. This is basically the parametric side of Revit, where you can fill all this information in, and then you can actually create schedules and takeoffs within Revit to kind of show you costs and everything like that. Obviously we won't be getting to that, but it's there. This is your graphics, so surface patterns and what it would look like if you're cutting it. Appearance, obviously this is what it's going to be when it's rendered. And then physical properties are basically how much a material weighs. And then thermal properties are what are used in analysis, obviously. And that's basically just the different properties that come with it. The biggest thing here is going to be the R value, and obviously the R value if you guys don't know, basically on R value, let's say a wall or a roof, is how well it allows heat, it kind of prevents heat from passing through, or if it's a low R value, how, obviously a low R value is worse, so more will pass through. You can see here there's not actually an R value, category directly. One of these actually pertains to R values, and I figured this out 2 semesters ago when I was TAing for the same studio, and I figured out which one of these relates to R value and the calculation to compare the two and how to change the number. I will find it again. I just lost. I just don't remember off the top of my head which one it is. So I will find that and let you guys know which one actually is the R value and kind of the formula to use to kind of quickly calculate that. The reason you're gonna have to do this is a lot of times, and I believe it's specific heat is what it is. I'm not 100% on that, so don't quote me. But the reason I mention this is a lot of times the R value kind of the way that it's set up within Revit through the category is not exact. They're off sometimes with what you want, so you can quickly change it here. The other thing you can do is if you go back to the Appearance tab and you click on this little button here, well, I want to say it's like 2 squares with a couple of arrows. If you click on that, it opens the asset library, and the two you want to familiarize yourself with or be on notice of is the Appearance library, which helps you. Basically, it gives you more materials to choose from, and this is obviously what it would look like rendered. So this is all different types of kind of texture patterns that you can use to help you render any different materials. So if it's brick, I'm in the brick one. If I don't like how that brick looks, I can come to masonry and pick a different style brick. Or if I'm creating my own material from scratch, I can come, I can use this to kind of pick what the material is going to be, bring it in and find it. Obviously, this is a lot more bigger and a lot more materials in it than kind of like what is already created here and different materials here. But the folder on top is the physical assets, and it's basically the same thing. It's broken down into the same categories. But if I come to masonry, they have different types of obviously they have the same different types of masonry, but each one has different physical and thermal properties to it because obviously different patterns of how bricks are laid are different, between a modular layout than, a uniform or a non-uniform layout. So here is where you can you just choose one, double click on it, and it would bring in a new asset and update these properties for you here. So like the biggest one here that you want to see is, so I don't know where, your infiltration barrier. You have, and then you can do like thermal insulation or an air gap that you can choose. One thing you guys want to note is you can see this dimension here. This is the total thickness of the wall, so it adds all these up. So if I change this to 5 inches, it's going to update it here and make that wall bigger. So as you're kind of breaking up your wall, you kind of just want to keep that in mind where your walls could get a little bit bigger depending on how it's actually constructed. Or if you use a generic 10-inch wall and you don't want to kind of take away from spaces that you've already laid out in your building, we can try to come up and construct something that will fit within that that 10-foot wall. And this is the same for all the different types of materials in Revit. Actually, so if I add in a roof, I'm just going to select that level. So I can quickly put in a roof. So I have it set to wood rafter. So if I edit its type, I can see that there's different layers to it. I can insert a new layer, move it up. I can call this thermal air layer, and I can make it there's a layer for rigid insulation or insulation in general. So like if you wanted to add insulation to a roof, or the same thing for a wall. Let me actually search for it. There it is. So if you want to add insulation to your wall, I can make this say it's 3 inches. So now I have a roof with insulation on it. You can do the same thing for a wall. You can add a layer of insulation to a wall. So that way it knows, you have 3 inches of insulation, and when you look at its thermal properties, it knows to calculate, through these examples, it knows to assign, R values are usually, like you have an R value of 3 per inch. So for something like this, if it has that, 3 per inch, then your R for the insulation alone would give you a 9 R value, and then you add up all the different materials. Again, that's something that, once we get to that point, we will show you guys that if you haven't learned about it yet. I know the 3 years are probably in the energy class, either now or next semester. I forget exactly when you guys take it. But that's something that's taught in the environmental systems energy class that they have here. Kind of what our values are and how they work. The other thing I want to show is if I put a wall back in. For Windows, obviously Windows is a family, so all the materials and everything are already set in it, because obviously it's a bin. Obviously you can edit its family and edit the materials and the properties to them if you wanted to. Or an easy way to set up the analysis is you click on the window and you go, you edit its type, and you can go to analytical properties. You can see these are all grayed out because it's. And you can see there's an R value and a U value here for the window. And the reason they're grayed out is because basically you have a selection here. And this is the type of window you can select. Basically, if it's double glazing, triple glazing, double pane, has argon gas in the middle, between 2 panes of glass. So this is where you just have to select it, and you can see the values change for the different type of window you select. So that's how you can change it for a window. A door is pretty similar, where if I put in this door and I click on it, edit its type, basically you have a type of door that you can pick from. So if it's metal, different metal frame with glass in it. If it has glass, it's a wood door. So again, you can pick it, and again you can see they change. It's nice because again these have R and U values. U value is basically the inverse of the R value. It would be nice if they just had those categories when I was showing you thermal properties and materials. Make it a little bit easier than having to try to figure out the specific heat category. And then, very last thing to show you quickly is if I go back and put in a wall, because a lot of you actually have curtain walls that make up your project. So if I have a curtain wall and I zoom in closely, I can pick that pane of glass, and this is where it becomes quickly like a window, where I can pick that panel, and then analytic categories. I have the same thing as a window where I can pick the type of glazing that it's going to be, and you can notice every single one of these is called a glaze panel. So if I change, if I set it up for one, it's going to set it up for all of them. But obviously, if you've edited its type and did a duplicate of the glaze panel and kind of set up your own glass panel, obviously that would make it a little bit different than how you would have it, than how it is there. And then you can see here how it does have a material property to it. So it has a glass material property, and it has thermal properties and everything to it. But since it has this analytical property, this overrides whatever the material is when it comes to energy calculations. So just keep that in mind as well. And so that should give you a basic kind of what elements are, building elements are, and kind of the conceptual mass. In the next videos, I'm going to show you actually how to run the energy simulations and solar analysis for each. The wind one, for flow design, it doesn't matter because obviously you're exporting a 3D model into the flow design program. So it can be either category. It doesn't really matter. If it's a building element or a conceptual mass, it's going to work no matter what, since we're exporting a 3D model.